While our next session panelists are being mic'd up, let me try and save a bit of time by telling you what we're going to do now. The property industry has seen a huge increase in the number and range of tech firms digitizing traditional processes and offering them apps and digitized big data analysis tool to improve their service to vendors, buyers, tenants and landlords, and help them market themselves and their services better to vendors and landlords. But now the rush to digitization is playing out, where this tech has really made a difference. But is it about to start all over again with the advent of generative AI? That gives you a flavour, I think, of what we're going to be talking about. The session is called Technology and Agency, What's Moving the Needle? Let me tell you about our panellists here. Stephen Geran, he's Product Director at Zoopla. He heads Zoopla products, which include leading customer relationship management platforms for both sales and lettings agents. William Reeve is a tech expert. He's a serial tech entrepreneur and chief executive of Goodlord, a successful digital platform that enables agents, landlords and tenants to enjoy a more streamlined lettings process. Simon Whale is the founder of Kerfuffle. He worked as a sales chief for major tech firms within the industry and now runs his own business. Kerfuffle helps choose and gauge the best tech on offer. And then Jon Cooke is Executive Director of nurtur.group. He's a former senior industry in the estate agency sector. He established 2 estate agencies and has worked at a senior level for several big agencies, including LSL. And he's now running Nurtur, which is a Proptech hothouse, which now has a considerable war chest to acquire and develop technology for the sector. Those are our panellists. They're just being mic'd up, but I think when you're ready, let's have them on the stage. Please give them a round of applause. We have an extra guest who's unfortunately not, for some reason, not photographed on the sort of rogues gallery. This is Kate Faulkner. She's a data expert. She's the industry house price expert who steers the home buying and selling group, a liaison group of working with Whitehall to help solve the challenges facing those moving home, and in particular, we talked about it earlier, the conveyancing system. So, Kate, welcome to you.
Thank you.
Let me kick off by, we've obviously, I've given you a flavour there of what we're going to be talking about. One of the big questions that's often asked in this sector is how technology can help some of the small and medium-sized enterprises within the industry to compete with the big boys and the large corporates. That's my first question. Is this really going to make a difference? Who fancies a stab at that?
Shall I go?
Please do.
Yeah. Well, there's one thing for sure, that you need to focus on this. You need to focus on your digital footprint because the big guys are doing it. There's a lot of consolidation going on in our sector. Many of you read that in the industry press. And these guys, one of their strategies is to consolidate and focus on improving the brands they buy's digital footprint. So it's a challenge to us as independent business leaders to make sure that we are clear about, I suppose in any organisation that you run, be it a baker's or an estate agent's, you need to literally own your digital footprint now. So it's more of a challenge than I think it's ever been.
Kate, I think you were keen to say something.
Yeah, I'm actually not sure it's 100% correct, if I'm honest. I think the problem with tech at the moment, or the 2 problems with our industry, is one is how fast tech shifts. And if we thought it was going to move fast now, blimey, when AI starts really kicking in, it's going to move a lot faster and changes will happen a lot faster because of all of the learning. But also compliance. Compliance is the biggest headache our industry has. And I'm not actually sure the tech that is around currently can keep up. If you're a large company, changing your tech provider is 2 or 3, is a year's job or more. Whereas if you're a smaller to medium-sized company, it may be easier to change that tech. So from my side, I actually think that the small to medium size have more an advantage because if you want to, if your CRM is not providing you with material information, buttons that you can press to head up to the information to head up to Rightmove, or indeed to integrate with a system that provides you all of that information, that is a massive hole. You're paying for a CRM system and you're not compliant. So for me, I think it's maybe the other way around.
I agree from a compliance angle. I think my point is, if you run an estate agent's business, it's about three things: leads, listings, and sales, right? And how you find your leads is going to be more and more important going forward. And how your digital footprint attracts those leads into your estate agent. From a compliance perspective, I completely get it.
And I might just jump in there and say that's the classic trap to fall into, is to feel it's all about sales. And what Jon's said is a sales perspective. And what Kate said is that actually compliance is where the pointy end is. And the pointy end is pointiest with lettings. That's the one where the regulations are toughest. That's the one where the regulations change the most frequently. And you're absolutely right that the tech keeping up with that is difficult, and for big companies, changing tech is difficult. So you've got to find a tech partner who understands the compliance burden and thinks about that first, and doesn't start from a sales point of view where this compliance stuff is a sort of detail left for later. If those of us who started in the letting sector, compliance is the main course. It's not the aperitif or the afterthought. So, and one of the challenges is that burden of regulation puts a real burden on the vendors as well. They have to make these changes, and they need scale. So one of the things that's going to happen, I think, with the rental rights bill is it's going to shake out some of the smaller vendors who haven't got the scale to be able to support this. And I think from my advice to people in the audience thinking about this, whether they're a small business starting up for the first time or whether a larger business is, just make sure you're thinking through, are my vendors resourced properly? Are my vendors talking the right language on compliance? And are my vendors not just compliant today, but are they in a posture which is going to stay compliant? Because these regulations, they continue to change. And Matthew Pennycook, the housing minister, has been clear there's more regulation coming after the rental rights bill.
Simon, you're keen to jump in.
Yeah, no one's going to be at all surprised that I'm going to say something that's going to make me even more unpopular. But you're not short of leads at all. It's that's just not the issue. You're swimming in leads. The issue is how you actually deal with those. There's tools in your stable like Lead Pro, I believe, that help you with the management of those. You've got to stop your staff members defining people as tire kickers, because the absolute certainty is if you treat somebody as a tire kicker and you go back to them days later, then you act surprised. Of course they're not going to respond. Sales put out some stats the other day that the logo, aka the brand that responds first, wins 76% of the time. So it's about how do you get to those effective leads in the best possible fashion, and that's a really key point. The second thing I was going to say, and again, no one will be surprised at that, is saying you've got to use Kerfuffle. And I say it jokingly. I say it jokingly. It really, you guys, the amount of times we go out there and see people paying absolute rack rate for stuff, rather than, mergers and acquisitions isn't just happening in the estate agency, it's happening obviously around, and that leads to some really good stuff. You've got Nurtur over here, you've got Briefing Market, all these other brands coming together, Starbury there. You can get a much better deal if you go to them and sign up for them on that basis. Zoopla, obviously, a classic example there as well. You can go and get there. But it's across the board. We have the relocation agent network. There's the Guild of Estate Agents. There's Property Mark. Leverage those buying groups to get the very best deals, because, some people feel nervous about having all your eggs in one basket, but it doesn't matter as long as it's the right basket.
Stephen, I'd like to bring you in at this point and change tack slightly. I mean, one of the big issues for the industry is unanswered leads. And obviously, a lot of agents, they get the majority of their inquiries from portals like yours, but a lot of them go unanswered. Are you able to sort of give a figure on how much of that is taking place and talk about the extent to which technology might help overcome that issue?
Yeah, sure. I think one of the first things we need to solve for as an industry is what we're optimizing for. And a lot of the portal's success metrics are based on how many leads can we send an agent, and that's a nice headline figure we can always talk to. But importantly, when we think about quality over quantity, and then back to the original question about how can the smaller agents and SME branches compete with those that have the economies of scale in telephony and those kind of lead capturing factories, I think the market needs to move in the direction of less is more when it comes to leads. We all know in certain markets, agents would want any lead because they back themselves on the telephone to be able to secure an instruction or a sale, and rightly so. But for the smaller agents especially, time is precious, and we want to be moving the market in the next couple of years towards a point where the leads that we're sending through, the agent is able to quantify as quickly and easily as possible that that's a lead that they think they can acquire as quickly as possible. So in those instances, I think technology can help. I think I agree with the panel broadly across the piece that can technology help the agency sector for SME businesses? I think it depends on the question you're trying to solve for. But by and large, when we think about the wastage and agents not physically being able to get back to either applicant or vendor leads in a timely fashion, they're always going to lose out to those businesses that have the ability to do so more readily. And until we move the market into such a position where potentially there's less leads flowing through, but each one is more quality, then yeah, I think technology needs to solve for that in the first place.
Kate, you touched on AI, practically the first sentence that was said on this panel. A lot of claims are being made for it as a game changer, potentially in terms of technology. Yet we've had these sort of false dawns before over time with various technologies. What would you say to someone who is skeptical that this really is capable of delivering the kind of change that's promised?
So the way I look at it is, you remember how, I remember going to agents back just after 2000, set up a property portal, and I was teaching them to do something to understand what the blue E was on their computer, because they didn't know that was the internet. And you think where we are now, and you think the dramatic change, for me, this is all about a process. And the best agents I deal with are the ones that really understand that process, have it all mapped out. And what you then want to look at doing is, how can AI help? But the biggest thing you must remember is your biggest asset, whatever happens with AI, is your people. And I was chatting to Valerie earlier on, and we were talking about the computer, the AI, chucked out something that said this person wasn't great for doing X, Y, and Z. And actually, the computer was wrong. So what I would say is, whenever you're looking at something like that, you've really got to understand your processes, and then you've got to understand for your business and for your staff, what are the bits that can help with AI, not bells and whistles, what are the bits that can make a difference financially, make a difference to your consumer service, and then look to improve it with that, and just start small. Don't try and change everything. And I think, and ignore all the noise, because every service is going to come into you telling you that they've got AI or they're AI enabled. You should decide what you're going to bring into your business that works from an AI perspective, not, for me, the other way around. But AI, for me, is going to change everything that we do, the way we book trains, the way you get up in the morning, whatever it might be. It's going to change our whole lives, just like the internet has done, but I think on speed. So be aware of it, but don't lose the core day job that you do and the good agents do brilliantly, and just add AI in bit by bit, one at a time, to the bits where you can really make an improvement to your staff and to your finances.
Okay, Simon, I think you wanted to come in.
I think ignore the noise was targeted at me, wasn't it? But I think if you're genuinely coming at this from the angle that you think it's another false dawn, it is a wave that's already hitting us. In other industries, it's making a demonstrable thing. And you, famously, with a wave, you don't want to be underneath it, do you? 2023 was the year of AI, but if we're honest, it was probably the most gentle, the least effective part. It's about content creation, ChatGPT, and as absolutely fantastic as that is, what we're starting to see now is some of the tools that are out there actually helping with efficiency, automation, and everything else. And there's this whole point that people come back and say technology depersonalizes. That's an absolute falsehood. When it's done right with some of the tools that Jon has, and I think Ben, who's an absolute aficionado on this, there's a lead thing that I'm sure Jon will be able to talk about in a second. You know, it really increases that. And I think you've got to get on top of it. Follow people like Mal McCallion on Model Prop, you know, who is basically bringing in tech into, you know, sort of the AI from other industries and kind of personalize it. These guys are definitely doing that as well. And I think, I don't know if Nathan's in the room, so I don't mind nicking his quote. He was at NAR, I believe, last year, and that point about saying that, look, AI is not going to take your job, but an agent using AI absolutely will be, and that's spot on. But you should be embracing there are some amazing tools out there.
John, I think you've got a little demonstration that you want to show us.
Well, I have a demonstration, but it is 2 minutes long. It's a bit of fun. It's actually AI booking and viewing. Do you want to hear it?
Come on, give us a go.
Go on then.
Give it a go.
Let's give it a try. I think it's on there. I'm going to speed it up because we haven't got much time. But so on AI, whilst the lady's positioning it, it's great news for you guys, right? You're clever, intelligent estate agents. You come to a function like this. You're investing in yourselves and your business. People like you are going to do so well out of AI. Because what it allows, AI allows to drive scalability. Automation will allow staff to focus on the value bits, the bits that make you guys money. AI will do the heavy lifting. Now, I'm going to play you something here. Apologies about the American accent, and apologies for saying that if there's anybody in here that's American. But it is a bit American, right? You can now get English accents, but we spun this up this week. It's booking a viewing. I'm going to go through it as quick as I possibly can. Do you want to play it if you can? Right.
Hi there. I recently got a job at Nurtur headquarters in Derby. Have you got any properties in the local area?
Congratulations on the new job. We actually do have a couple of properties in the Derby area. One is a 6-bedroom terraced house on Udexeter New Road, close to the city centre.
I don't need a property that's that big. Have you got anything in the 2 to 3 bedroom range?
Absolutely. We have a few options that might interest you. There's a 2-bed semi-detached house on Crawley Way in Chellaston for £130,000. It comes with a shared ownership option.
I'd want to own the property entirely. It should also be a freehold. Have you got anything that meets those criteria?
Certainly. We have a few freehold properties available. One option is a 2-bed linked detached house on Nesfield Road, Ilkeston. It's a modern...
So what that was showing, go to the stand, because he then asks it to speak French and German. It cuts in. Wow. But the point to make there is that now AI, you can interrupt it. Yeah, so he was interrupting that, and then the bot was going off and finding other... It's conversational. So he carries on and he asks it, could I have a property near the airport? The bot goes on to Zoopla, finds a property that's geolocated near an airport and gives him the answer to that. Now, I'm not suggesting it's perfect. All I'm saying is there's an example of a process. It goes on to book the viewing as well. Go to the stand and listen to it because it's too much to do today. But the real benefit to this AI thing is human interactions are going to be even more important because we're going to get used to speaking to these people in our life. So the stuff that we've done over the years, and I've been a estate agent for 30 years, and you know it's about building trust with the consumer at the end of the day. Once you've built trust with the consumer, they'll transact with you. AI will be part of those building blocks of trust, but so will be what we've done over the years, which is human interaction. So I believe it's great for our industry. It's brilliant for, I'm sure, the lettings industry in terms of taking process out. AI, booking a viewing for lettings or fixing a washing machine. The AI bot can deal with that for you, I'm sure. You're probably working on stuff like that, so I'll hand back over to you now.
It needed an East Midlands accent, I think. I think it should have said Middock or something like that at the end of it. And East Midlands are in the room, evidently. William, you wanted to jump in on something?
Yeah, I just wanted to, I suppose, answer your question directly in around what should you say to the skeptics. I would say, at least in the field of lettings, you should be skeptical. And I think if you think about what AI is amazing us all at, it's amazing us at the stuff we find really hard. So, you can get AI to, draw a picture of a sales director wearing a pink top on a panel at a conference, and it will literally do that for you in an incredibly impressive way. But when you think about what you're trying to do with staying compliant, it's not rocket science, and it's quite numerical. And again, drawing is one thing. Numbers are something which is still actually surprisingly hard for the large language model approaches and the generative AI. So if you take something like the tenant fee ban, when that came in, that's a black and white thing. You can't charge tenants any money. It has some other very, very simple rules to follow. The deposit can't be longer than 5 weeks' rent. that is not rocket science. That's not difficult technology to build. The AI is not particularly helping with any of that stuff. But that's stuff which you shouldn't be using people for. People screw up. People find 5 weeks' rent a very difficult number to calculate. People find updating their contracts to make sure they're not charging the tenants any fees remarkably difficult to do too. But this is not complicated stuff. This is not difficult to build. The tricky thing about it is staying on top of it and making it user-friendly, making it easy to use. But you shouldn't be using people for this in the first place. And AI doesn't make any difference to the enforceability of this stuff.
One thing that always comes up in conversations about AI is how many jobs is it going to destroy? Does anyone have a view on that?
It's absolutely true, but it's about that there's going to be far more created. So there is displacement. Anyone who pretends that there isn't, a well-known CRM company, when just last year when it came out, and they had the 2 content writers come in tears because they said that's us out of a job. Of course, it's not about that. You can do far more with it. You can be more scalable about it. But there is absolutely going to, and there will be mistakes made. We were talking about this before. In Dubai at the moment, they are trialing AI, never mind incoming AI. They were doing outbound conversations, again, conversational there. You and I were talking, well, where's the HR, with its ability to hallucinate, where you're on GDPR and things like that, when you've got these, maybe calls spamming people 24 hours a day. The technology, that classic genie out of the bottle, we are not catching up in terms of legislation and control about it, and it doesn't seem to be much happening as well.
Okay, so everyone's being quite optimistic here. There are a lot of pain points in every industry that technology seeks to address. Which are the ones potentially that AI may not be able to tackle?
The fact that if you're buying a home, your customer is having a baby, getting divorced, getting married, somebody's died and they're in debt. And they need to be looked after with a great deal of care. And the other thing it can't tackle is that actually buying and selling a home, even if it was a perfect system for the very best agent, working with the very best legal surveyor, etc., it is still going to be stressful. And the one thing that it cannot replace, and I'm not just saying this because I'm here, but I believe the only reason, everybody says, we've got this slow process, we've got this, and it's all terrible and blah, blah, blah. I actually say, no. It's an absolute miracle that in this country you guys move 1.2 million households a year. Bearing in mind how bad the system is, not tech-wise or anything, but because most of the information is in paper, and it's not digitalised, and that we're still very siloed, getting much better. That's what we're trying to change on the council. Everything's still done in a very siloed way. But the big thing that it won't change is that the 1.2 million sales happen because of the tenacity of the people driving those sales, from agent through to the removal company, often forgotten, but also due to a lot of kindness and care of people going through those personal situations. And that's where, again, best agents, best legals, etc., come in, because people still need help because they have a lot of personal heartache, whatever it might be, or excitement to try and get through this. And we actually haven't got enough homes. And that's only going to get worse. It's not going to get better. So that is where it really won't make a difference. And that's why this will always remain, to me, primarily a fantastic people business, where technology should support the person and certainly not replace it.
Good answer, thank you. Jon?
Yeah, I completely agree. As I said earlier, we're a people industry, and it'll always be a people industry, but every part of the process of a state agency will be touched by AI, definitely. The bit I think everyone in the room would be pleased to hear is I think the conveyancing process will eventually get sped up by AI. Yeah, it has to. Come on, what is it? What's your conversion rate at the moment? Yeah, round of applause. Yeah, thank you. Our conversion rates for sales, I talk for sales particularly, are shocking. When I first started, 30% of your pipeline used to churn. Now you're lucky to get 19, 18% in a month. That has got to change. And I believe there's lots of suppliers that talk about blockchain and all this sort of stuff, but AI will definitely bring it together because it's a process at the end of the day. And as long as new paperwork is brought forward, which AI can go and search. And interesting in my life now, if you talk to Ben from Nurtur, the guy with a cap on there, many of you know Ben from Starbury, our life is changing. I don't use Google. Very rarely I use Google now. Very rarely do I use YouTube. I just go onto ChatGPT and ask because it's just such a nicer experience. I don't want to be served up adverts or videos that I don't want to talk to. I just get the answer straight away. So people are more and more using AI to deliver on what they want in their lives. They're going to start to ask IA questions about conveyancing, which estate agents use, all that sort of stuff. So I think it will touch us all. But I do also, as I said earlier, enough to agree with everybody here, the human interaction is massively important for the high-value bits and the emotional connection, which is what we're good at.
Okay, so we're really tight for time. I'm going to have to move it on a bit. William, one for you particularly here. We talked this morning a lot about the Renters' Rights Bill, and we now know about these awful fines that potentially agents are facing. Is this something in which tech is going to be able to help? Is tech going to be able to reduce some of the risks that agents may face?
I mean, the bill is still going through Parliament, so we've got a good idea of it, but we don't know for certain what's in it. But I think the main thing tech's going to do is help manage an awful lot of change at once. They're talking about bringing the bill in such a way that potentially a whole load of currently enforced contracts will be rendered void, and that's going to need a lot of communication and a lot of hand-holding, basically. So I think the tech is definitely going to assist with the change management of it. But some of the struggles around landlords worried that they won't be able to retain control of their property, or tenants will be able to abuse the system around rent reviews and things like that. We're still trying to work out exactly the role tech has to play in it, and I think there will be time-saving ways, and there will be predictive ways of reducing risk, but no, we're not going to be able to eliminate some of the challenges created by the bill.
Okay. I'm afraid we're a bit pushed for time. You were all enjoying your lunch so much. We were a bit late getting going this afternoon, so we've only got a couple more minutes. Has anyone got a question for our distinguished panellists? Someone must do. Come on.
We've done a good job.
When's coffee, maybe?
Well, it's coming up right after this.
Could I just say one thing?
Please do.
Just that point about moving the needle, and before anyone says, no, it's not the Ozempic that I'm definitely not taking, that AI actually isn't going to affect probably the biggest issue in the industry that we have at the moment, ironically, which is about actually the integration of all the different systems. That there's lots of different packages out there, that CRMs that are fantastic, and you think my old mob at Reeve integrate with over 120. We've got 1,000 suppliers though, and I don't think that's comprehensive at all, just on Kerfuffle and everything else there. That there are agents out there, and that frustrations. One of the biggest frustrations they always come back with is that these systems don't work together. You're repeating and keying across information and everything else there. So I think that's a massive issue that needs to be kind of solved. People like, as I said, people like Manning Stainton refuse to look at a supplier if it doesn't integrate with their CRM. There's a product out there, I don't know if they're here today out there, but there's a product called GlueDog that is essentially the Zapier of what they're doing, which is trying to integrate, with all the different CRMs, so you do one integration and everything else there. And again, most of our corporate clients are saying their policy is going to be in the future, is going to be about, if it's not GlueDog enabled, then, they'll wait until it's actually done. So I think that's a really key element there is, it might only be a few seconds and minutes here and there, but actually when that's, multiplied across branches, that's a massive time waster.
Okay, very good. I'm very, very sorry we've had to cut this session short because we need to stay on time. Please give our panel a round of applause. Thank you.